That's my main issue on this one.
The final one, Colm Keaveney.
Thanks, Chairperson, and I'd like to welcome the team from Comreg here this morning. Thank you for your comprehensive presentation. But like Michael, I think there's a couple of kind of fundamental sort of questions that we need to understand about who you are, what you do. We need to explore that mandate. I was surprised to see that letter, Chairperson, come in yesterday with respect to the role of publicly elected members of the Houses of Iraq legislators. Getting a kind of an advance warning that we couldn't ask an interest in respect to the public interest. That's completely unacceptable. And so I don't think we should leave this room today until we get to the bottom of a number of important facts. Comreg met its committee in January of this year, and a number of short days later, it publicly announced that it intended to pursue on post to the courts, and which could result and is likely to result in a €12 million fine. Now, I don't understand why or how Comreg could have come into us in January and a short number of days later have pursued this action without actually advising the committee last January. It was only a short number of days subsequent to that committee presentation. And I don't know, I'd like to know what your feelings on what you believe the role of this committee is with regard to informing what you believe is a significant public interest with respect to your actions. If you're not prepared to speak to the committee and share that information, I want you to tell me about how you share information with An Post. What's your sort of communication strategy on a day-to-day level with An Post? See, I come from a background to, we try and fix problems before we pursue a significant public liability onto An Post. Like, we own An Post, we are the shareholder. So essentially, Chairperson, you've burdened me or the people I represent with a liability of €12 million. Now, if what Michael says is true, and I think this is important, if An Post have to pay your cost to pursue An Post, and if An Post have to pay their own costs in defending An Post, then there's a double liability here for the state. Because if it is the situation that you secure your revenue from An Post activity and you're pursuing a legal case against An Post, that means An Post are paying on the twice. Now, the only people that would seem to be getting out well on the other side of this one are the people down in the forecourts. I'd say they must rub their hands to see the sight of you coming down the road to hear and see that there's an open checkbook coming down from An Post based on an issue of quality. And I want to talk to you about that quality. The quality you refer to, I want you to share the threshold or the benchmark that you use with respect to arriving at where you believe there's been a breach in that quality. What I mean by that is that you must have had some objective measure to establish, and I want you to share for the public record what precisely is that measure vis-a-vis other measures that are used relative to other regulatory authorities across Europe. There is another issue I wanted to talk to you with respect to, and it's a matter of public record, finally, Chairperson. It's not sub judice, and your appeal is not subject to a decision of a jury. It's a decision of a fact of a lower court. There was an article in the Irish Examiner on the 12th of October this year, correspondence written by Éon O'Frailon, and it outlines a case that you took on behalf of a citizen of this state with respect to a postal address. I suppose, Mr. O'Brien, it was you that you're the commissioner, aren't you? You are the respondent.
We're members of the commission together.
Okay. I can't understand the scale of what I consider incomprehensible folly that you took and exposed the state to this liability. And unless you can demonstrate publicly here today the objectivity vis-a-vis your core principles, because this was, when I go back to your universal your core principles of what you try and achieve. To ensure a universal postal service provider complies, protect the stability of the universal service provision, provide regulatory Now, I'll conclude, Chairperson. An Post is likely to lose a significant amount of money this year because of this sort of relationship that we need to explore here today. I'm asking you to put onto the record of this committee the objectivity, the measures that you used with respect to arriving at what Michael raised earlier on. How did you get to the 12 million? And what was the basis? What was the objective criteria? And that needs to be measured either in this market against the competitors. Now, what competitor in this market did you measure? Or are you measuring on an international basis? What was the rule of thumb that you used? And I think that we need to get that onto public record as soon as possible.
Okay. Right now, I'd go over to thank you for a response for a lot of them. There.
Thank you very much, Chairman, and for members for your questions. I do appreciate very much the views of members on the two matters that are before the court mentioned, one in relation to an addressing case and the other in relation to quality of service. Unfortunately, as you're aware, I cannot comment on matters that are sub judice, and you will also be aware that that is the guidance that we receive from your own committee to avoid any comments about an issue that is currently before a court of law or about which court proceedings are imminent. However, we will certainly very much respect and note the views that you have expressed to us.
Chairperson, can I just intervene? The standing order 57 of Dáil, and I'd ask the clerk to make reference to it and advise that we're given evidence in a public committee. We are public legislators, so there's no point in somebody telling a legislator what the standing order is of this House of Oireachtas, okay? And there's a standing order here that provides that in the public interest we can ask any question irrespective of sub judice. I want that just to be clear.
I think we should allow the